Our phones have completely influenced our relationships in the same way that porn has an impact on our sex lives. Both are forms of artificial intimacy. I'm Dr. Christy Wise, and this is Life Sauce. I mean, if you think about this really in terms of energy, how much energy we have as human beings, or even the energy you have in one day, and if what we're doing is using that energy to connect superficially, sometimes, most of the time, connect with people online, how much energy do we really have then to connect meaningfully in our relationships? That's one aspect. The other aspect is that it's a lot of what we see obviously online is just not real. And so when we bring that home or bring that into our relationships, our expectations are all fucked up. Like what we are expecting to see, you know, in our partner is what we saw 20 minutes ago on Instagram or whatever it is. And there is a sense of that we're not getting it right, or it's not enough, or it's not pretty enough, or all of the above.
So is this specifically with just like social media, or just like technology in general with other things like TV shows and video games and movies and other things like that?
Yeah, it's all of that. You know, it used to, not to age myself, but whatever, you know, in the old days we used to call it something like a Hollywood ending. And there was this expectation that everybody wanted their Hollywood ending. And that was really very vanilla compared to what we experience now. Now, when you think about all technology, you know, everything that we engage with, you know, unfortunately our standard goes really high, not for ourselves, but for our partner, what they should be doing for us, but what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel like, you know what I mean? So it has had a huge impact on our ability to connect meaningfully, like in a vulnerable way.
Mm-hmm. And do you think there's also a part of that where it does change people's standards for themselves, where they see these people being able to take their partners out on these extravagant vacations or all these filters that get put on people? Do you think that also gets changed for us when we're on these different social media platforms?
Oh, absolutely. It's you know, we talk about a mental health crisis, and yes, I think that we have some, but realistically, I think that it's more that we have had such a hard time learning how to adapt to just humanity, to being human, that it does impact our sense of self-worth and our self-esteem and everything above. You know, I know that you and I were just talking the other day. I showed you something that I had on my feed in Instagram. Remember the thing with the cucumbers and like the appetizers? And I thought, oh my God, that's so cute. It's like cucumbers that look like animals, and I want to know how to do that. And then I go in the kitchen and I start cutting cucumbers, and mine doesn't look a thing like that. And you laughed at me and you said, no, that's AI, or right?
Yeah, within the first couple seconds, I could tell it was generated by some AI.
Yeah, you could tell, but in my mind, I thought, why can't I do this? You know what I mean? So I think that's a weird example of how it impacts us even in relationship.
So do you think it's also kind of stunting our social skills because it gives us an expectation of what needs to be done, but then when we go and try it ourselves, it's not what we wanted?
Not only is it, yeah, that we feel like we can't measure up, we have not desensitized ourselves, we have not practiced enough, we have not put ourselves out there enough to be vulnerable, to feel silly. Like the other example you and I were talking about is going and sitting like in a waiting room at a doctor's office, or sitting on a subway, or where we used to interact with people, standing in line at Rite Aid when we're picking up our prescription. We used to interact with people, you know, start conversation, even though it's very surfacey interactions, it still teaches us how to respond to social cues and be vulnerable in a way, or feel silly in a way. And when we don't do that, we are completely out of practice.
No, we just live the introvert's dream.
Yes, literally. I mean, you know, we joke about how, you know, you look in a restaurant or you look in a waiting room and everybody's head is down on their phone. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you look up and you look around the room and then somebody makes eye contact with you and you quickly look down on your phone.
Definitely.
Right? Because it used to be where people would smile at each other, or you know, have conversation. And so, yeah, I think that it's completely stunted our growth.
So do you think those little moments where people aren't looking at their phones, is that going to lead to more like superficial connections, or is it going to make the rarity of those social connections without technology that much more powerful?
Well, that's a great question, actually. I think it's both. I think because the human experience is that of being seen in the world, right? I mean, like that's how we feel like we are valid and alive and worthy, because people see us and they connect with us. And if you kind of take that and you look at what that means online, does that mean that if you post something online and it only gets a certain amount of likes or attention, that you're not really being seen in the world? Do you know? So I think that it's both, actually. I think that one, because we're not used to doing it, when it does happen, when we do feel seen or gotten or connected, we feel like, oh my God, he gets me, or he sees me, or she sees me. And that impacts us. But on the other hand, like if you're with your partner every day and you're sitting in front of them, telling them about something awful that happened in your day, and they're on their phone, you can see where that would negatively impact that feeling of being seen and heard and validated for what your day was like.
Definitely. And I think also that a part of what social media provides is, even though it's taking away that ability to be seen, it's also enhancing it, because you're able to post a selfie or a picture of your vacation or whatever, and then you can see in real time 500 people have liked us, 501 people have liked us, 502. So it's also being able to outsource that attention away from your partner and getting it from everyone else around you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And it feels like that. You know, if you post something and a ton of people like it, it almost reinforces it. Like it feels good. Like, oh, I'm a traveler now and I'm this kind of thing. The problem with that is because it's superficial and it doesn't last, then it's almost like this false sense of belonging. You know, it's like that idea that, I can have 10,000 friends, but no one to feed my dog if I have to go out of town.
So I feel like it's almost creating this emotional detachment, right? Where
Yes.
there was a need that normally is filled in by the partner, and now it's being outsourced and even reinforced by the thing that's causing the very problem. So how does that emotional detachment get adjusted or fixed?
Well, and I'm glad that we're talking about that, because I think as we've become more cognizant of what the impact of social media or artificial intelligence has been in our world, in our lives, we're seeing the pros and the cons, because there are pros and cons. So how does it get fixed? Well, we learned how to balance, but we can't do it unless we see it happening. Not everybody that picks up their phone when they're at dinner with their partner is doing the, like, I'm ghosting you in real life kind of thing. Sometimes they're not even aware of it. They're so used to picking up their phones that just don't even pay attention to it.
Well, there's other times you want to share something with your partner.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, you know me, I love dog videos. I send them to you constantly. I love them, but the idea is I'm sitting here looking at all these cute dog videos, but my own dogs can be upstairs asleep without getting my attention. So I think that balance has to be very conscious and, and real, I guess. Think about this for a minute. I'm thinking about clients and different things that come up for people. And so say like your girlfriend posts a super hot picture of her, we're on vacation, she's in a bathing suit, she posts a picture, she looks great. She's getting all kinds of views from all these men. And then she shows up, at a pool with you guys are on vacation, and you don't turn to her and say, man, you're so hot in that bathing suit. And she feels miffed because she's like, I got attention from all these other guys that think I'm hot, and my own man doesn't say much.
It's almost like there's a different aspect or part of the internet for every need that someone could have, whether it's validating how someone looks, or the dogs being upstairs even though you're looking at your phone, or whether it's getting sexual satisfaction from porn, or even just being able to look at good food when you're not hungry to make you hungry.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a different part of the internet for whatever desire people have.
It is, and the things that tend to go viral, if you really think about them, are the things that have included some kind of deep vulnerability. Somebody falling off of something, or crying because their partner has come home from war, or, you know what I mean? There's some kind of deep vulnerability that that we're all moved by. And those are the things that become really viral.
And I think we were talking a little bit before about how we're not as vulnerable because we're kind of hiding behind the shields of our phones and whatnot,
Yeah.
which is so strange because we have an option to be vulnerable if we put our phones down. But when we pick them up, we look for the most vulnerable situations.
Yes, that's exactly right. But it's weird because we get to, on our phones, we get to be vulnerable or watch vulnerability, but not have some of the discomfort that goes with it. So think about this for a second, that in online relationships, online friends, we get to be very surfacey and think through our reactions. So it all looks very shiny and glossy and nice. Compared to in real life, that vulnerability can be clumsy and imperfect and emotional and sometimes snotty or whatever it is. And that's uncomfortable. And so we tend to go towards what's easy rather than going towards what's real.
And I think that it's also much easier to act vulnerable on the internet. You know, if someone's going through a hard time, saying "I'm here for you" is super easy to type out. But you know, if you know your friend's having a bad day, driving to their house and showing up at their door without them asking you to is a completely different thing. So
Totally different thing. And don't you find that that doesn't happen often these days? Like not a
Yeah.
lot of friends. I mean, I know in your friend group that you guys are really there for each other. And that's, and I know it sounds weird, but it is rare. I mean, we all think that we're there for our friends, but would we really do all the things that we maybe used to do for them? Or, I hope so.
probably because our foundation was built before the spread of everyone having a phone in their pocket and whatnot. You know,
Oh.
I remember when I first met my friends, it was still back when there were flip phones and minutes and changed the game a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's funny. I know you have your guys' night online.
Yeah.
And that just cracks me up because it's not like, I mean, for you, that's real and you guys really are connecting and you guys are together. When I've had my girls' nights, and you've even seen it, where we get silly and we do silly things, you know what I mean? I mean, like they're different experiences,
And I suppose that is one of the benefits of having these technological tools now because, I have friends in different states. We're still able to have that guys' night, even though we're hundreds of miles apart. And I think that part of the reason that we're able to do that is because we were, from a young age, used technology to enhance what we had instead of replacing.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge distinction. That's a huge distinction. I mean, like now that I kind of chomp on that for a minute, I think that's significant.
Well, yeah,
Right.
we started with, 4-player split screen on a GameCube or an Xbox or whatever. So when we go to use it online, it sort of feels like the same thing for us. I'd imagine it'd be the same thing, where families used to watch TV or the news and stuff together. And now when people watch it alone, it's almost like there's that part of it that they still feel, but now that I'm also thinking about it, now they might also feel that part's missing, which
Yeah.
might contribute to all the loneliness that is being felt, even though we're more connected than we ever have been.
Yeah.
But the sense of loneliness in society is also at an unprecedented level.
It is the deep loneliness, and we can be with our partner and having conversations, but feel very, very lonely. And part of that is the lack of experience with being vulnerable exchanges with one another. Do you know?
Yeah, and sort of a tangent. How much is that disconnection caused by the actual addiction to technology? Because it might not be a conscious, like, I'm just with my partner, I'm going to go on my phone or whatever. It might be our brains are so used to the constant dopamine flow from the endless scrolling
Yeah.
or the notifications that, oh, your post got liked. How much is it us being slaves to our reward systems instead of us sort of trying to find a way to fill the holes in our relationships?
Yeah, it's fabulous. And you're right, that's exactly what happens. That's why it's so reinforcing and easy. We can pick up that phone. Even just the mere act of picking up your phone releases dopamine. We don't even have to go on anything and scroll, just the mere act. But the truth is that we used to get that dopamine from one another. The reach over, the smile, you know what I mean? The warmth of their skin. And we still do. It's just not as readily available because we're so quick to pick up our phones rather than to reach for our partner's hands.
And just to try and spin it a more positive note, with the invention of things like FaceTime and whatnot that allow you to connect to people super far away and still have face-to-face, how come it's not offsetting these issues as much when we have the capability to have more deep connections from such a long distance?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jacob. I think, it's a product of not being proficient at being ourselves. I think most of us, and I joke with my clients all the time when they're dating, we send our representative. We're not sending ourselves, really. So even though it's on FaceTime and we can see them and it's somebody we know, there's still a detachment, and our representative, so to speak, the one that says the right things and acts the right way and responds in the right way, even though it might not be what's coming from their heart, or consciously what they really feel or think, so I think that it lacks that connection. The other is, I think that what we do is because there's that sense of distance, we can also be very callous with each other. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, online, when people are so hard on each other.
Definitely.
It's like, damn, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, what is going on right now? Like, would you say that person to their face? What?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. There are things that are said online that people would never say in person. And I think the thing about, even though you're seeing a face, there's still attachment, is like you hit the nail on the head with the hammer, because everyone with a second monitor that's been on Zoom, there's just the possibility of having, you could do work, you could browse Instagram, whatever's going on. But if someone was talking to you right in front of you at the same distance as your computer monitor, you would never just pull out your phone and start scrolling through your phone when they're right in front of you.
No, you wouldn't. And even, even seeing their face and it's somebody you love and care about, it's still not 3D, no, 4D. I don't know how it's still, you know what I mean? That there's a sensation that's missed there. That's why some people don't like phone sex. Because there's a connection that's actually really missing there.
And now that we're on the topic of sex, is porn sort of doing the same thing, where our relationships with our partners are getting changed by the expectations that are set by these crazy vacation photos? Or I don't know if you've seen the thing with the influencers there's like a fake private jet set, and people will go and pay, like 100th of the price of an actual private jet. Well, they'll just go take pictures and be like, we're taking a private jet to Ibiza or Italy or wherever. So is porn kind of doing the same thing, where it's sort of not glamorizing, but making everything push towards the extremes of what would most people consider normal?
Yeah, I think so. And then that leads to this sense of, I want more, I need more, my partner's not enough. You know what I mean? There's a challenge in that. Because not everybody wants that.
Yeah, and I think that with the constant exposure to extreme versions of just about everything, from sex and politics and vacations and work, I think that this sense of normal has gotten so distorted, and almost there's been a negative connotation attached to it, where it's not okay to like things that are normal or average, when in reality I think most people want, a sense of like a baseline level of okay. It's okay to go on vacation 2 weeks and fly business class or whatever. You don't have to go fly a private jet. Your vacation could be just as good. It could be better. It's whatever you make it.
Yeah.
But when everyone sees these hyper touched up pictures of the weather was beautiful, and everyone looked beautiful on the beach without makeup, even though there's filters and everything, and maybe they changed the sky to be beautiful blue and no clouds. I think it's even getting internalized in people's wins. They're not feeling as much like wins, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause it's like, oh, how come when I go on vacation, we're going to the next state over and we had
Yeah.
to drive 16 hours and they got to fly private, you know?
Yeah, it's so true. You know, it's funny. I was just thinking about it as you were talking about that, how ironic it is because, like, during COVID, when everything was shut down and people got really, lonely, and a lot of stuff was going on, obviously, but the minute things started opening up, how excited people were to just go grocery shopping or go to the mall or have friends over to watch a game. It's almost like we realized once it got taken away how much we missed it. But it's also shocking how quickly it went back to that whole artificial flavor.
Yeah, I didn't get too deep into the article, but just saw a headline the other day that was talking about how even after COVID, Americans specifically are still spending more time indoors at their houses than before COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's also even an appreciation of that. I mean, when they first said we were shutting down, everybody was like, oh, but it was so quickly after that people were excited to do those projects that they never got to do, grow a garden, learn how to make bread, have sex in the middle of the day, all the things, the basic things that people really seem to enjoy. I think it was really valuable.
And do you think putting these things that we all enjoy online sort of cheapens how much we enjoy it? Because it's like when someone's hobby turns into their job, they sort of don't have that same love or passion with it because money gets attached to it. Do you think the same thing is happening where you take something you love, whether it's making, dishes or woodworking, and then putting it online for others to see? Is that sort of changing it in the same sort of way?
I think so. But the other part I'm thinking about is the validation even of it. Like, for instance, is a meal really good if you don't post it? I mean, does it still taste good? It's like, if a tree falls in the forest, is it, like kind of thing. But even the other way, if we don't even really like the meal, but it's pretty to look at, do we give it more value than what it really is?
Yeah, I think this is probably seen a lot in places like concerts and whatnot, where if you're a little bit further back, you'll see probably hundreds, if not thousands, of phones in front of you for everyone recording the concert.
Yes.
To share online instead of just being there in the moment like people used to, and
Ooh.
just enjoying the experience for what it is without having to share it.
This is such a good point you bring up. Actually, I was thinking about this. So we're kind of talking about like collective conscious or something, and how that connectedness makes us feel like we belong to something. There are certain songs, and I don't have the research in front of me, but certain songs like Sweet Caroline, everybody, bum, bum, bum. There's certain songs that Queen is one of them, where that type of music connects people, and suddenly we become like a connected whole. It becomes like a massive connection. And in those moments, we are a part of something bigger. I think that song from Queen in Live Aid, was one of the first, that We Will Rock You, where the whole audience was participating in that. And, all of this idea of just that we can connect on such a grand scale without it being just through the eye of our phone. You know what I mean? The depth of meaning that brings to our lives and really to our sense of being alive.
Mm-hmm. So does that act of viewing something through your phone screen and your phone viewing what's actually happening, is that sort of detaching the connection within that collective consciousness? Or is that much more of being a part of the collective consciousness of online, where everyone gets to share what they enjoy?
Yeah. No, I think there's a big difference. And not that I don't enjoy watching that stuff online, because I do. But if you've ever been to a concert and you're so moved by it, and we're using music as an example, but all of your senses are engaged. The smell of all the people around you, or you know what I mean, and the taste of whatever cocktail you're drinking, if you are, and the sound of the crowd, and like all of your senses are engaged in all of that. rather than just the visual idea of the video that you're watching. And I think that there's a difference in the depth of living when it's just a visual compared to a whole body experience.
And so if we move out of the concert stadium and into the home, having that phone is, when it's up, is also going to be cheapening the things you say to your partner because it's sort of adding that extra detachment?
Yeah, absolutely. Think about if you get a text from your girlfriend and she says, "I love you, you mean the world to me." Oh, that's so nice. But imagine sitting across from her and she's holding your hands and she looks in your eyes and she said, "I love you, Jacob. You mean the world to me."
It's very different.
So different. And that's, by the way, the difference in sex and porn and not. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can watch something that seems tantalizing, but very different than looking down at your partner when you're making love to her, the look on her face and the feel of her skin, and you know what I mean? All your senses that are engaged.
Mm-hmm. I think we talked a little bit earlier about like ghosting people in person.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's having the same consequences as ghosting people online? Because when people get ghosted online, it's called ghosting because
Yeah.
you just never see them again. They're
Mhm.
gone. They vanish like a ghost. But in person, it's almost a little like uncanny where they're there, but they're not there. It's like
Yes.
the shell of the person is there, but
That's
they're
right.
just completely in a different world because of their phone or laptop or whatever.
Totally. It's like, I see you, but you're not here. It is a feeling of, I think, the ultimate in rejection. Like, I love you, but not that much. I care,
Almost
but
worse
not
in
that
a way.
much. Oh, it's worse. It is. And we've talked about this even like as a big family, that when we're all together and there's one particular member that's on their phone, and it's like, we're having such a good time. What the fuck are you doing over there? Put your phone down. Like, be with us. You know what I mean? There's almost a sense of, like, for me, I'm almost offended. Like, we're missing it. We're missing moments together all the time. And by the way, if I think about all the clients in my office that they fight over this, or the regret that they have not spending time with a parent or a grandparent, you know what I mean? Thinking that it's just like taking it for granted and missing those moments and then losing them and feeling like you'd do anything to hear the sound of their voice or the warmth of their hands.
There's a lot of talk about love language, whether it's, words of affirmation or physical touch or gifts, but the sheer act of giving your loved one attention, I think, is often overlooked too.
Giving, and you're right, and you're going right to it. That is love. That when you can attune and attend and be there with somebody, that is love. Even if you don't have the right words, even if you don't know how to say it, even if you don't know what to do, the being there and being present is what loving somebody is about.
So sort of feeling the presence of that person around you, is that only for individual one-on-one relationships, or does that extrapolate to group relationships?
Oh, it's group relationship. That's part of why group therapy has so much impact for people, because not only are they sharing their vulnerability in something, but they're being seen by all of these people, and all of these people are attending to and tuning in and leaning into whatever is going on for that person, and they feel heard and seen and validated, even if nobody says anything. And it's when people say, "Oh, I just feel disconnected from my partner," I don't know, we disconnect. It is literally because they lean out instead of leaning in. And really, being connected and being able to attune to your partner doesn't mean you do it just when it feels good. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. You can have conflict or disagreement or hurt or anger, but we could still lean in and be there.
So technology isn't going anywhere.
No.
If anything, we're only going to get more integrated.
Uh-huh.
So how can people use this in a way where it's not going to harm their relationships?
Well, a few things. We always talk about boundaries. Yes, there has to be boundaries. The other is that we have to be willing to communicate with our partner and listen to our partner enough to hear if it's helping or hurting. If I'm going to go online and I'm going to learn, some fun new sex tips and tricks and all of that stuff, and then bring it home and use it to connect with my partner meaningfully, you can see where there'd be gained value for us. But if I'm watching that stuff instead of attuning to my partner, then you can see where that would cause cracks in the relationship. So I'd say creating the boundaries, balancing enough, and learning how to value and appreciate some depth in your connection. Because if you really are somebody who's learning to value that depth, you'll feel it missing when you spend all your time on your phone. It'll be nice and everything, but you'll long for more. You know what I mean? And so it takes sometimes being able to step away from one so that you can appreciate the other.
And can these same tips be applied to people that are single, or is this a whole different ballgame?
Nope, I think it absolutely, as a matter of fact, sometimes we're single because we don't have the courage to try those things. So yes, I would say if you're single and you're not sure how to transition into real life people, I would say then practice on the people you feel comfortable and safe with, your friends, your family. Go be vulnerable with them. Go spend real time with them. Put your fucking phone down and go and connect and be real. Don't bring your representative to every meeting or every connection. Go be real and flawed and human, and let them be real and flawed and human too. And you'll start to really gain that confidence in being able to connect. You're standing in line at Rite Aid, put your phone down, talk to the person next to you, even though it feels awkward because they may not be used to it.
Mm-hmm. And where does the role of virtual relationships with things that can fill the places for people, like these chatbots or like different stand-ins where people are finding relationships that satisfy a need that they have in a virtual place?
That's a great question. Wow. How do they find satisfaction?
And how is that fine line between helpful and hurtful get walked?
Yeah. Well, I think that we're having to distinguish the difference between what we're seeing that's real and what we're seeing that's not real. Like, I know when I was growing up, whatever, in the 80s, and I would always get Vogue and Cosmo and all of those, and my girlfriends and I would lay on the beach flipping the pages going, God, this woman has such long legs and she's so skinny, and we'd literally try to figure out how to be as skinny as her or have the same tan as her. Then all of a sudden we are educated on that not all photos were real. And we were stunned. And so while I could still look at a Vogue or a Cosmo and appreciate her gorgeous long legs, in the back of my mind, I'm very clear that that's not real. So I can appreciate it for what it is. You know what I mean?
So things have to come in through a filter.
Yes, absolutely.
And is there a way that you can maintain connections even when there's the tension caused by this technology?
Maintain connections when there's a tension caused by it.
Tension. So like, we talked about how if you're telling your partner that you love them with your phone, it's very different than if you're making a deep connection and telling them how you really feel. With the tension that's caused by the technology, whether it's you're at the dinner table and someone's on their phone, or whether you're out on a date and someone just, you could be walking holding hands, but your other hand could have a phone in it. That's going to cause tension within the relationship. Yeah. Is that going to get addressed through communication or boundaries, or how is that going to get solved?
Yeah, well, it's through all of it. First of all, I don't know if you've ever had the experience, but you're with your partner and they're on their phone, and all of a sudden they realize that they're being rude. Like, they could tell by your body language, they could tell by your then detaching, you're leaning away. Like, we're listening and paying attention to those cues. And this is a hard one for people, but we need to approach our partner with some love and compassion, because it's not that they always know, or maybe they're attached to their phone because of work or whatever, all the reasons and excuses. But being able to, there's a big difference between, I can't believe you're on your fucking phone again. He won't even, that's different than, I love you, I want to be with you. Would you mind putting your phone down for an hour? Let's just be together.
And I think that same compassion, if it gets applied to people beyond your partner would probably help everyone navigate the internet a little bit easier.
Oh, I think so too. That and being okay with being the one that's real.
Yeah.
Instead of just going with the crowd, that whole group think thing is, I think it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that there's a lot to be said about how to integrate the new with the old or the real. Do you know? So I think that this is going to be practice for everybody.
And what are some things to keep in mind when you're practicing? Is it just this is a learning experience, mistakes are going to be made, or is this sort of I need to push myself because this can cause such big problems?
Right. I think both. And I think that if you're in a relationship or you have great friends, I think that doing it collectively or with the accountability is fabulous. You guys, let's have dinner tonight, but let's all put our phones in the basket. Or if we're going to share something on our phone, let's share it, but then talk about it in depth. Do you know what I mean? Not just like show the video and everyone's looking at the video. Like, let's actually then have meaningful conversations, true conversations about things. Like, let's use it to enhance things rather than to inhibit things.
And do you think smaller steps need to be taken, or should it just be jump right into we need to connect without these phones? Because I feel like with how integrated they are, it might be hard for a lot of people just to go one dinner without touching their phone, or like you said, even just opening it up and then closing it back out.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I do know that, like, I've been watching, and kind of paying attention to this along the way. And I even see that there are certain companies that are getting in trouble for engaging their employees after work hours or asking them to answer emails on the weekends, or because even the boundaries there are skewed. So I do think, I have hope for us. And I think that, it's all been exciting and shiny and new. And as technology changes, it is all exciting and shiny and new. But I do think in our heart of hearts that we love to be a part of something greater. So I'd like to believe that as we learn, we get smarter, and so I think that it's a good mix of both. And so I guess I want to end on this thought that, we lead by example. We do what people do, not what they say. So if it's important to you to want to connect and belong and be loved and be seen, then connect with others and invite them and see them so that they can then do the same. Like, be an example.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's probably a good spot to wrap things up.
Very good. Thanks, Jay. For more information or to submit a question, go to our website, lifesauce.com. That's life-sauce.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media. Thanks for joining us.